well, there's nobody here yet, and that's totally cool. This is my first live. I have no idea what I'm doing, but I've hit a boring point in this knife build, which is just hand sanding. So I figured I'd throw the camera on, and anyone who joins can ask questions or just hang out. So here I'm starting at 120 grit. The knife itself just came off the grinder at about 220, but my bevels aren't quite even everywhere. They're pretty good down here. I mean, you guys can't see anything, but they're a little squiggly up towards the point. So I'm dropping down to 120, just so I can kind of start evening things out by hand and really dialing in this curve. This is kind of a process that's going to end up taking probably all day, like a good 8 hours, maybe more. The thing is, it has to be, the hand sanding has to be really well done, really even, and I have to bring it up to about 600 grit for something like a Damascus blade. The one thing I'm trying not to do here is to blend my bevels with the flat of the blade. I don't want to erase them and have them completely disappear. I kind of want a smooth, crisp transition. So I'm trying to keep the angle that I'm sanding at consistent with the angle of the bevel, which isn't always easy. And the angle does change, but you kind of get a feel for it. And here, I'm just using like an old ruler. I used to use a file. The problem with doing it with a file is that if you slip or the sandpaper tears through, now you've got a nice big chunk out of your blade, and all the work that you've just done is ruined, and then you got to start again. So that's no fun. Oh, hey, thank you so much. Just seeing the 2 nice comments here. Hi to the 2 people, well, 3 people it looks like, who are joining me live. This is the first time I've ever gone live, so I have no idea what I'm doing. Hopefully you guys can like actually hear me and see what's going on. I know it's a little hard to see the knife that I'm working on. It's my next custom project, which will probably be released in a few weeks on the channel, but it's a Damascus kukri, which is really cool. And it's a project, not the kind of project I normally take on. I haven't done a ton of Damascus lately. I've done a few daggers in the past, I don't know, maybe a few months ago. And I really loved doing the Damascus. It's a big challenge. Especially when it comes to this step, which is a hand sanding, which is just super boring. It takes, hours, and it has to be pretty much perfect. Otherwise, the pattern doesn't show up properly, and especially for a custom build, that's not what I want. So I'm gonna take my time today, work through the grits. Here I'm at the lowest grit, just started, so I'm gonna be here a while. But yeah, if you guys, I don't know if you guys are knife makers or you do other kinds of making, whether it's woodworking or something totally different, but I'm happy to answer questions as they pop up. So yeah, somebody's asking, what do I make? It's mostly swords. I do a lot of fantasy-based swords and daggers, so that's kind of my bread and butter. But today I'm working on something a little bit different. It's always in the knife making world. I actually started off doing a lot of chef's knives. Can you guys still hear if I'm like grinding away like this and talking? I don't know if you can or not. Just let me know in the chat. But I started off doing a lot of chef's knives, and although I love doing chef's knives, they're a big challenge because the blades are so thin. I've always wanted to get into making swords and daggers. I mean, I feel like that's most people's, big dream, is to make a really huge sword or something cool like that. So that's what I'm doing mainly now. Although I do have a few kitchen knives still available. I don't know if they're listed on the website from back when I was doing that. Oh, I'm just reading the comment about wanting to get into forging and making stuff. I'm glad the channel's kind of motivation and inspiration for you. That's really what I wanted, to be honest. Pretty much everything I've learned about knife making and sword making has come from the YouTube community and other forums and things. I've taken very few in-person live classes. It's mainly just been stuff on YouTube and online courses. But the biggest thing is really just doing it. Just start somewhere small. I mean, I've got a whole bunch of these like super old knives that I practiced grinding on. It's like the death pile over here of projects I started and tried and just didn't work out. But that's how you learn, right? You can watch all the videos and read all the books you want, but unless you start doing it, you're never going to actually learn anything. And you don't have to start really big. I mean, I built my own grinder, which is still the grinder I use today, and that's kind of the main workhorse in the shop. But you can make a small knife using nothing more than a file and some sandpaper. It'll take you forever. Like you'll be there for weeks, but at the end of it, you'll have learned a lot and you'll have a knife. So that's what I would recommend. And thank you for watching. I'm so glad that people take the time to watch the videos, and learn something from them. So that's awesome. So I've just run through my first strip of 120 grit sandpaper. And I've basically barely done anything on this knife. So I'm gonna move on to the next one and go from there. I'm gonna be honest, this is a process that I've been trying to learn to love over the last 6 months to a year. It's been a challenge, and most of the time I find a way around hand sanding. I've gotten quite good at using the belt grinder to put a nice belt finish on most of my swords and knives. I just don't think it's really worth, especially on a long blade like a sword. I'm not convinced it's always worth hand sanding everything. In this case I have to, because it's a Damascus blade and everything has to be pretty much perfect. Oh, thank you so much. I'm seeing that the comments about like enjoying the videos. Thanks so much for watching and for joining me live. I was saying to everybody else that this is the first live I've ever done, so it's a little bit nerve-wracking because I don't know what to expect. And I don't know if there's going to be any technical issues, but I'm going to be here in the shop just doing boring hand sanding for a while, so I thought I'd go live and see if anybody wanted to ask any questions. And if you guys want me to change the camera angle so you can see the knife a little bit better, just let me know. I realize you're kind of getting a half-ass view of both me and the knife, so. Oh, expecting trolls. I've been on YouTube long enough to expect trolls, so yeah, it's all good. Most of you guys are awesome, so you make up for all the trolls. Ooh, an upcoming project I'm excited about. The one I'm working on right now, I am excited about because it's Damascus steel, and I haven't done that in a while. So of course I made the steel from scratch here in the shop. It's a pretty low layer count. You'll see tons of stuff on YouTube with million layer Damascus. For this knife, I wanted a really bold pattern. It's a kukri, so it's a pretty large blade, and I just wanted something that would really stand out. So it's only 54 layers. What I did was I started with 14 layers of alternating 1084 and 15 N20, and then drew that billet out, cut it into 4, restacked it, and re-welded it. And that's pretty much where it ended. And then I forged out the shape of the kukri, cleaned it all up, heat treated, and now I'm hand sanding. So. Yeah, the grinder is it's a tough tool to use, but once you get the hang of it, I mean, it's like I was saying earlier, it's the workhorse of the shop. It's probably worth having a good one. I did have a really good grinder at one point. I bought a Broadbeck, one of their grinders, and it was amazing. I ended up selling it because I wasn't making knives for a while and I needed the money. So I haven't had a chance to buy a new one since then. I've just been using the kind of the garbage DIY one that you guys have seen on the channel. I mean, I say it's garbage. It's survived the last several years of daily use, but it's not the best tool for sure. And hopefully I'll be replacing that someday. But started forging. The hardest thing about starting forging, probably just knowing what to buy, and then just getting started experimenting. Honestly, I took a blacksmithing class years ago with like a local blacksmith. It was weird to me that was even a thing, but a lot of small towns actually have a local blacksmith somewhere in the area. They're not as uncommon as I thought, and a lot of them do run classes. So I would actually suggest starting there. It's not super expensive. And they can give you an idea of sort of what tools you need, what techniques, to start off with, what kind of steel you want to buy at the beginning, what not to waste your money and time on. So I'd say that's a good place to start. I mean, the other thing, I watched a lot of Alex Steele, who you guys are probably familiar with. His channel's amazing, but he also has some online courses that I would recommend. He goes through the basics and stuff, and they're quite good. Yeah, I mean, it's funny you mention age. I'm almost 40, but I made my first knife when I was 14 or 15. And it was probably the biggest piece of garbage you will ever see. First of all, it was made from mild steel because I had no idea what I was doing. I was in my dad's garage, which was a one-car garage in the middle of Calgary, Alberta. I used the barbecue coals in this tiny little portable barbecue to heat up the steel, and then I was hammering it on the back of, how like bench vices, they have that little flat part at the back. I was using that as my anvil, and just the most ridiculously terrible knife ever, but it's what kicked off this whole passion. And I have really great memories of that. I actually have some pictures, maybe I'll post them on Instagram, of me forging that first knife. So it doesn't matter what age you are. It doesn't matter, how much money you have or where you are. I always say, if there's a will, there's a way. If it's something you want to try, just do it. Just start, find a way, and it could become, a lifelong passion or not. Maybe you find it's not for you, or you go the other route and take a class. Like I said, it's probably the cheapest, fastest way to start and see if you like something. Oh, thank you. Yeah, that's awesome. Start with whatever you have. Like if all you have is a file and some old cutlery, then start with that. That's perfect. You know, it doesn't even mean you have to show anybody or try to sell it. Just make it for yourself, see how it goes, and I promise you your next one will be better. That's just the way it is. The first one always sucks, and then the next one's better, and the next one's better than that. And then you get 5 years down the road, and you take a look at your original work, which at the time you thought was like pretty okay, and it's just the worst. Like I still look at projects I made 6 months ago, and I wonder, what I was thinking, or I just look at the techniques I used, and now I know so much better. But it just takes time. Nice. I haven't really made throwing knives myself. I did have a project. I don't know if you guys are aware, on my other channel. My other channel is called Broken Tower Knives. It's like an ASMR version of Dorian Forges Stuff. So similar projects. Most of them are the same. But it's no talking, no story. You just get to see the process. And on that one, a while back, I made 3 throwing daggers. They're called shin cows. It was based on I don't know if you guys are familiar with what's it called, that new movie. My kids love it. It's like the K-pop Demon Hunters. So in that, one of the characters has these shin cows, or like throwing knives. So I made those out of Damascus steel, actually, same sort of layer count and pattern. The video did not do well at all. But I had fun making that project. So those are cool. Those are on that channel if you want to see them. They won't appear on this channel. I'm not going to do a voiceover and commentary for them, but yeah, a lot of people do like the ASMR stuff. I just personally enjoy telling the story behind the build. And I feel like the ASMR stuff just doesn't always capture everything that I want to capture about the build. Like there's so much story behind, whether it's a client commission, what they were looking for, there's the relationship between me and the client and things like that. I find is interesting, and I like to talk about it, and I can't really do that in the ASMR channel. But I mean, if that's what you're into, that channel is there for that reason. So, well, thank you. In terms of how much the backstory affects the design, well, what affects the design most is just whatever the client is asking for, and there's usually a lot of backstory there, depending on where they're coming from and why they want the project. But what I try to do is keep a lot of my personality in the designs. I'm sure you guys have noticed that a lot of my knives and swords come from existing IP, like Lord of the Rings, things like that, just because I'm a huge nerd and I enjoy those. But I do try to put my own spin on things, and that just comes from my own personal preference, but it also comes from what I have available in the shop in terms of equipment and things like that. Like there's certain things I just can't do because I don't have a mill, I don't have a lathe, I don't have CNC. So everything's done more or less freehand. I don't use that many jigs and things like that. Not because I don't want to. It's just this is kind of how I learned the craft, and I've been doing it this way for a while. So that really affects the design. I have to think about, okay, well, what can I do if I can't execute a design that's exactly the way the client wants, or the way that the sword appears in whatever movie we're trying to make a sword from. So what I've got in the shop and my own personal preferences are kind of the two biggest determining factors of what the design ends up looking like and what I can make. Oh yeah, thanks. Check it out. Yeah, the channel's called Broken Tower Knives, and that's the name of my company. So. Okay, I'm just gonna set up the camera to take a shot of what I'm doing here. Otherwise, I'm gonna completely forget to record for the video. So this is a part that just adds a ton of time to every build. Getting the angles, getting the shots, making sure I don't forget stuff halfway through, which definitely happens. But obviously, something I need to do so that you guys can actually see what's going on. Yeah, let's see. That's a decent angle. Oh, thank you. Yeah, I am. You know, I spent 18 years in the military. And then after that, when I left, I wanted to start my own business. I didn't really know what to do. And I kind of did a lot of things I thought I ought to do or ought to try, and it just wasn't me, and it did not work out. And it wasn't until I came back to knife making and craft that things really changed for me. So in terms of being passionate, I think that's something we should all focus on. Just, you know, what gives you energy? What do you wake up in the morning and feel like this is what I'm meant to do? So I'm lucky. I mean, I get to wake up every morning and do my craft and enjoy what I'm doing. And I know not everybody has the flexibility or the just the ability to do that. So I'm really thankful for that, and for you guys for watching and supporting the channel. So let me see here. I think I've got the shot lined up. Yeah, the narration is fun. Honestly, it's a ton of work. It's a lot more work than I thought. But it's worth it. I think now I'm trying to do the narration as I build the video over time. Before I was doing it after, and it was adding like 2 weeks to each build. And that's 2 weeks while I'm also trying to build the next client's order and film everything, etc. So it is a lot of work. I find it easier now to narrate as I go, and that way I'm also not forgetting kind of the story. It's got its issues though doing it that way as well. I'm just gonna be quiet for a few minutes here while I record, and then I'll chat with you guys again. All right. Luckily, there's not much recording to do today because this is a pretty repetitive and boring process. So, I mean, the 8 to 10 hours I'm going to spend doing this is going to turn into maybe 30 seconds on camera. So, kind of sucks, but you got to do what you got to do, right? Yeah. Anything that has to do with fire ends up being pretty therapeutic for me. I mean, I think we've all had the experience where you sit in front of a fire and you kind of just like zone out and stare at the flames. which can admittedly be a bit dangerous in a working shop. but I do find anything that has to do with the forge is pretty therapeutic, especially when I'm using the press. You get into a rhythm, and just watching the steel glow and stuff, it feels very primitive, and it kind of just, I don't know, pulls you back to what your ancestors were doing thousands of years ago. Probably not with a forging press, but um, I really like that part. I'm trying to learn to love hand sanding. It's so repetitive that you do get into a trance, and that can be therapeutic. The only problem with it is that it takes so long that I get bored. I'm actually somebody who gets bored very fast and very easily. Um, that might not be apparent in the videos, but it's true. So hand sanding is generally a part that I try to avoid if I can. On this build, no avoiding it. I just got to do it. So here we are. But so here, I'll try to show you guys. I don't know how well you'll see things, but sorry if I'm giving you a headache here. It's like Blair Witch Project style. So let's stop this from vibrating. No, that's not going to stop. Yeah, so this is the kukri that I'm working on. So I've been hand sanding the bevel on just the one side. So we've been doing that for what, half an hour it looks like. Let's see. I'm gonna wipe off. I use Windex, by the way. The stuff that I'm spraying every so often is Windex. So I'm gonna wipe it off and check for any scratches. And we still got lots. There's lots of scratches on here still. So half an hour is gonna turn into probably an hour by the time this one bevel is done. Then I still have to do the flats as well as the entire handle. The reason for that being is some parts of this handle are going to be visible, and that's actually going to be the biggest challenge on this knife. But anyways, I have to hand sand everything from the end of the handle all the way to the tip of the knife. Then I have to flip it over and do it again on the other side. So yeah, it's going to be a little bit. But actually, I don't know. Maybe if I bring you guys closer, you might actually be able to see some of the pattern in the uh-oh, I think I lost you guys for a sec. I'm in the shop and Wi-Fi is. Anyways, so back at it. So yeah, for those of you who are curious, what I'm doing is I'm spraying Windex onto the blade as I hand sand it. The reason for that is just to lubricate everything, but it also, as I'm hand sanding, I'm breaking down the steel and the abrasive material in here, and it's creating like a slurry that I leave on the blade for as long as I can, because it helps to even out everything that I'm doing with the sandpaper. It's the same technique that I use when I'm sharpening my knives by hand, which I do mainly with kitchen knives, not so much with swords and things like that. But so here you go. That's a great question. It's actually a combination of both. It's a little tricky because with client work, I like to have a design ahead of time that's approved by the client. Obviously, I don't want to completely surprise them and have them, not like the final design. So I give them a say in the general shape, the materials, things like that. So I like to try to work as closely to that design as possible. Now, some knife makers more skilled than me might be able to make a knife exactly to specification when they're forging. I'm not one of them, so I can get pretty close, but the dimensions are always going to be slightly different. And I'm okay with that personally in my process. I'm okay with having a bit of variation. Kind of feel like that's just the craft telling you where the final product should go. And I like to follow that as long as it's not, you know, completely off. So this knife is actually quite close. Um, I think it's slightly shorter than I intended it to be. I wanted the handle to be a little bit longer and a little bit more flared out at the end. At least that's what it was like in the design. I actually quite like it this way. But if you look at a lot of traditional kukris, they do have a very flared handle at the end. This one is not as much. So I'm okay with it though. If it had turned out that, you know, this thing was 3 inches shorter or the shape was completely off, I would have had to start again, which would have really sucked because it's a lot of work to make this steel. But that's just, you know, what the commission demands. So. Dexter, you wanted me to repeat something. I'm not sure exactly what part of that you missed. Just let me know. So I see Dexter's, you're saying you're from Brazil. That's awesome. Where is everyone else from? I'm in Ontario, Canada, by the way. Oh, thank you so much. I appreciate you taking the time to watch the videos. Um, the ones I've posted so far haven't been too long. The ones on my other channel are typically about 25 to 30 minutes, and I'm working my way up to that for this channel as well. So I know it's a time commitment. So I appreciate you guys watching the videos. We need more Windex. It's like more cowbell, but more Windex. I don't know. You guys get that joke? Christopher Walken, more cowbell? No? My jokes typically really are as bad as they are on the channel, so no surprises. Oh, cool. Okay, from the US, watching from Thailand. That's awesome. Are you there for work or just for fun or what? I'm curious what you guys like most about the videos. I'm always trying to improve things. And sometimes I think, you know, a certain part of the video is the most interesting part, but that's actually not what everybody else thinks. So what do you guys enjoy the most about the videos, and is there any feedback or anything you guys think could be improved? Okay, work and fun. It's good you can combine the two. That's what I'm doing. Woo, yeah, Lord of the Rings. That's what got me into everything too. I absolutely love Lord of the Rings. I'm looking forward to Hunt for Gollum. I don't know if you've been following that, but I think they just started filming. Um, supposed to be out December 2027. So looking forward to that. It's been what, like 20 years, 25 years? Well, I guess I never count The Hobbit because I don't like it as much. But I grew up on Lord of the Rings, so I'm looking forward. That was kind of a Christmas tradition. They would always release the videos or the movies here in Canada around Christmas, so we'd go like on Christmas Day or in that, you know, time period to go watch Lord of the Rings. So I have fond memories. Yeah, well, that's honestly, I mean, there is drama, and of course, like I have to add a little bit of drama in the videos to keep them interesting. Um, but a lot of that is very real. Like it's how I feel when I get a new client commission and I want to do a great job. And so there's always that drama. It's usually me versus myself more than me versus a client. Like I have absolutely incredible clients. Um, like I've never really worked with somebody who's been a total ass. Um, Everyone's been really awesome. They've been giving me a lot of creative freedom, and so I want to do right by them, and give them a great product. So the drama usually does come down to, me just pressuring myself or not being certain if I can pull something off. Something like this Damascus blade. This is the biggest Damascus blade I've ever made. There's a lot of potential for things going wrong. So far, it's been pretty good, but I know there's some parts coming up that are going to be a challenge. So thanks. Yeah, I like to put in my kind of my own perspective and story into the builds because I feel like no matter what I'm making, it's impossible for me to take myself or my personality out of the build, even if I'm building something that like a client designed, or if it's supposed to be something like a replica of a sword from a movie. It's always impossible for me to take myself out of that equation, and that's why I don't like doing exact replicas, because I kind of feel like what's the point? If somebody wants an exact replica, they should just go and buy one from you know the internet. If they want something from me, then I feel like I have to pour a little bit of my own soul into it and my own experience. So I like to try to communicate that in the videos as well. So I think I'm going to stay live for another maybe 3 or 4 minutes, and then I should probably kick off and focus on finishing this. Otherwise, I'm going to be here for another 3 weeks. So if you guys have any other questions or any other comments or anything, I'm happy to answer them. If not, my goal is to go live more often. I'm not going to say I'm going to do this every week or every 3 days or whatever, but whenever I get a chance to. Now that I've done it and I kind of understand how it works, this is something I think I want to do more often to connect with you guys. So yeah, so I will be doing it again for sure. So I'm going to take a quick look here and see how it's going on this belt. So we're getting there. We're getting there. There's still some scratches. They're not super deep. When I put the bevels on this using the grinder, normally I try to go as fast as I can by using the lowest grit I can. So I start with 30-ish, 34, then I go to 60 grit, and then I work my way up from there. I really wanted to conserve a lot of material on this blade, and I didn't want to put deep scratches in it because those just take forever, and of course you're eating through the material as you do that. So I started at 120 grit on this blade, then I went to 220, and now I'm hand sanding at 120. So I'll be able to get these scratches out no problem. It shouldn't take me too much longer, at least on the bevel. But as you know, then I have the rest of the blade to do. I have to flip it over and do the same on the other side. So I really appreciate you guys watching. Oh, thank you so much. It is relaxing. I like to watch personally because I'm a metal worker and I make knives and swords. I don't like watching that too much. Feels like doing more work after work, but I do like to watch woodworking and actually jewelry making. I find it fascinating. There's a couple really interesting channels, and I find that very relaxing as well. And you always pick up new techniques or new ideas from craft that's adjacent to yours, right? So if you're metalworking, you pick stuff up from woodworkers, and I'm sure the opposite is true as well. So it's been really great. thank you guys so much for joining me. You'll see this build on the channel in a few weeks. Yeah, and I hope that you watch and continue enjoying the channel. Thank you so much for your support.